We're going to take a look at page Ayin Dal in the Yalkut HaBi'urim, and we're now on the left column. And we're talking about Rabbi Shimon, and we'll again quickly review Rabbi Shimon and Rav Oshia's understanding of Rabbi Shimon, which the Gemara finds problematic because then Biplukta Kamayr. So let's go over the two scenarios very quickly of Rabbi Shimon, and this is called Achiv Shelo Hoya B'Olamo. We have one scenario in which the Levi, right? Levi is the third of the three brothers in the sequence of the birth of the three brothers. And Levi did not overlap at all with Reuven. Reuven died childless, leaving his wife for Yibum, and Levi is not in the picture. Okay, then? You're invited to this year, but it's on Wednesday, so Wednesday night. Okay, then? I just didn't get a chance to organize my pages. This is the photocopies for that sheet. So the Gemara here on Daf Tesam and Beis, on the top of the Ovid that we saw yesterday, says that there is a difference before Rav Oshia between these two scenarios. Scenario number one is where Shimon, the younger brother of Reuven, but the older brother of Levi, was Miyabim Ashes Reuven after Reuven died, and Levi is not even born yet. Levi was only born after Shimon was Miyabim Ashes Reuven. That's one scenario. Another scenario is that although Levi and Reuven were not alive at the same time, Levi was born after the death of Reuven, but before Shimon was Miyabim Ashes Reuven. So that at the moment that Reuven died, Levi was born, and the Zika of Ashes Reuven was still active because Shimon has not yet acted out and implemented Ibn. And before Rav Oshia, again, we're going to talk about post Rav Oshia in just a minute, so let's not get confused. But pre Rav Oshia, we differentiated between these two cases. And we said the following, that when does Rabbi Shimon reject the category of Achiv Shelo B'Olamo? That's in a case where Shimon was already Miyabim Ashes Reuven before Levi was born. So that when Levi appeared on the scene, so to speak, this woman is Ashes Shimon. And Levi was born, Shimon is alive and well, married to his wife, who's the wife of the late Reuven. And now, when Shimon dies, Levi is alive, he's Achiv B'Olamo. And even Rabbi Shimon would agree in that case that there's no possibility of Yibum on the part of Levi with Ashes Shimon. I'm sorry if I mixed up two cases, so let me get it straight again. If Levi was born before Shimon was Miyabim Ashes Reuven, then the Zika of Ashes Reuven is still active. And therefore, even Reb Shimon would agree in that case that Achiv Shelo B'Olamo is going to completely undermine Yibum. Jeff, are you able to hear me? Or I could put them just, if you could just let me know if you could hear me. Yes, you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Because yesterday I had major problems here with my Zoom. They couldn't hear me. So I just have to know that you guys are hearing.
No problem.
Good. So we're good to go. So therefore, in the original understanding of Reb Shimon before Reb Oshia, we could actually reconcile our Mishnah with Reb Shimon. And Reb Shimon would also agree that Achiv Shelo Bali Olam completely torpedoes, completely undermines Yibum. In what scenario? Where Shimon had not yet been Miyabim Eshes Ruven, Levi was born, the Zika is active, as we said before, and since Levi was not Ba'olomo Achas with Ruven, therefore there's no Yibum. Even Reb Shimon would agree. However, comes along Reb Oshia, and he expands the scope of Reb Shimon. According to Reb Oshia's version, Reb Shimon completely rejected the category called Achiv Shelo Hoya Ba'olam, and therefore, Lo mi boy, it goes without saying that if Levi was born after Shimon had consummated the Yibum with Eshes Ruven, that there's no exclusion of Yibum, and when Shimon dies, this woman who was originally Eshes Ruven, but now is Eshes Shimon, falls for Yibum to Levi. Levi is going to be Miyavim. That goes without saying. But says Rav Oshia, even in the case where Levi was born before Shimon had consummated the Yibum, even in that case, Rabbi Shimon rejects the category of Achiv Shelo Bali Olam, and there will be Yibum. In that case, the Gemara says it's impossible to reconcile our Mishnah of Achiv Shelo Bali Olam with Reb Shimon. We don't have an option for dudes until we get to the Tosas Yishan, and that's what we want to study today. So you'll see approximately 5 lines down. Let's count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down in the paragraph on the left column. Hikshu Hatosis Yishana. We don't have an extra copy here. Maybe somewhere in these pages.
Which page?
So we're looking at page Ayin Daled on the left column. And you'll see a paragraph that starts with Madua Ein Lahamid Es HaMishnah Below Yibum Hasheni Klal. You have that? And if you count down 6 lines, or 7, what do we say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 lines down. Hiksha Hatosis Yishon. In Cain, actually, you know what? We can either we can backtrack a little and I'll read it to you, or I'll just summarize. Either way, because I realized that he summarizes the premise that led him to the kasha. I skipped the premise. I went straight to the girdle, straight to the kasha. He says the following: Afladas, Rabbi Oshia. The Gemara is going to say later on Daf Chaf that even Rabbi Oshia agrees that Rabbi Shimon has the category called Achiv Shelo Hoya Ba'olam. Let's take a case where there are only 2 brothers, right? Let's say Avraham had 2 sons. We'll call them Reuven and Shimon. Or Yaakov had 2 sons, Reuven and Shimon. There are only 2 brothers. Yaakov had Reuven. Reuven was married and he died without children. And then Shimon was born. Everybody agrees. Even Rabbi Oshia's version of Rabbi Shimon would agree that Shimon, in this case, is Achiv Shelo Hoya Ba'olam. And therefore, there's no Yibum. Because the Torah says, Ki yeshvu achin yachdav, and there was no overlap between Reuven and Shimon. Shimon was born after Reuven's death. Oh, shelo yibem ha'ach shehoya ba'olamo is Eshes HaRishon. Let's say Shimon never implemented Yibum on the wife of Reuven in the case where there are 3 brothers, and he's alive and well. And now, in such a case, the wife of Reuven falls for Yibum for both Shimon and Levi, but Levi was not alive at the time of Reuven. And therefore, even Reb Shimon would agree in that case that there's Achiv Shelo Hoya Ba'olam, and therefore Levi is not a candidate for Yibum of Eshes Reuven. So Hiksha B'Tosas Yishanim and came Afla Rab Oshia Efshal Lahamis Mishnasenu Be'ofanim Anal Af B'Shitas Rabbi Shimon. Why did the Gemara offered the possibility that the Mishnah, when it says Achiv Shalahay B'Olam, is talking about one of those two scenarios, which was unanimously accepted as an exclusion from Yibum. Either there's only one brother alive, and he didn't live during the time of his older brother who died before he was born, and even Reb Shimon would agree that's called Achiv Shalahay B'Olam. He's out of the picture as far as Yibum is concerned. Or alternatively, a case where there were three brothers, but Shimon did not implement Yibum. Shelo Yibem ha'ach shoyev ha'olamo es eishes harishon. So we have possibilities of interpreting our Mishnah with an ukimta, and we have even two possible ukimtas, in a way that it would reconcile with Reb Shimon. So why is the Gemara jumping on Rav Oshi? Forget about Rav Oshi. It's true that Rav Oshi expanded the application of Reb Shimon and limited the application of Achiv Shelo Bali Olam in the case of Reb Shimon, the sheet of Reb Shimon. But nevertheless, we have other options here. We're not without recourse. The Tirtzu and the Tosi Shonim answer, She Efshal Lahamis Mishnah Seinu B'Kaf Mishum Shebetchilas Perik Sheni Mefareshes HaMishnah Ketzad Eishes Ach Shelo Hayu B'Olam. In other words, that which is written in a general sense in our first Mishnah, listing one of the 15 cases where there's no Yibum as Achiv Shelo Hayu B'Olam. Well, the Mishnah at the beginning of the second parak now says Ketzad. What is the Mishnah in the first parak referring to? What scenario is Achiv Shelo Hayu B'Olam? And the Gemara's answer, where there was Yibum to Shimon, who was alive at the time of Reuven's life, which is against Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara itself interpreted the Mishnah as referring to a scenario which depends upon the Machlokes between Chacham and Reb Shimon. According to Reb Shimon, there would be Yibum, and there's no exclusion and disqualification of Achiv Shelo Hayu B'Olam. So we don't have the option of zetzing arayin, of interpreting the Mishnah and the Ukipta against the Gemara. The Gemara itself says, Ketzad, what's the case of the Mishnah? Now, obviously, this answer of Tosas Sham is very technical. We're going to take a look at the Tosas HaRosh, see how many Balei HaTosas there are. And I'm going to wonder out loud with you why Tosas Yisharim didn't give the answer to Tosas HaRosh. It seems like much of a healthier answer. Don't stretch your arm out to the Mishnah at the beginning of the second parak, where the Mishnah is going to raise the question of Al Ma Medubar, Keset Mayri. What's the scenario of Achiv Shelo Hayu B'Olam? Why not stay within the confines of our Mishnah, the first Mishnah at the beginning of the Yevamot? Guf Mishnah Seinu. There's no question that our Mishnah is not discussing a case of two brothers. The Mishnah is discussing 15 cases where not only is she, the Erva, excluded from Yibum, but she also excludes the Tzara. Which means that there was a second wife who fell for Yibum. Is lo yitachem p'tur tzaras eishes ach shelo hayu b'olamo eli acher sheyivma hasheni, which means that Shimon was niyabe and eishes Reuven. Shimon has another wife, and the Mishnah is telling me that when Levi is born and subsequently Shimon dies, not only is Levi excluded from Yibum to the first wife of Shimon, he's excluded to the second wife as well, because of the din of Tzara. Once she's excluded from Yibum, then she goes back to being an Eishes Achiv, the old, well-trodden path of Erva, and she now Pater's heard Sarah from Yibum, me did Sarah's erva. Below Odi Isha Cheresh, Lo Hoisa Ashes Acharisha. So now Shimon marries a second woman who's not related in any way to his brother, his late brother Reuven, and yet she's excluded from Yibum under the halacha of Tzaras erva, Tzaras Achiv Shelo Hayvo Lova. Avol b'nefil rishona, shebemisas harishon, in a case where there's only Reuven and Shimon was born after Reuven's death, all the wives of Reuven have the same exact status of Eishes Ach Shelo Hoyvolom. And therefore, there's no need to introduce Tzaras erva because all the wives are on the same level. The only way of introducing Tzaras erva is if there's not only Reuven and Shimon, there's also Levi. Shimon was Miyaveh Meishis Reuven, and now he has another wife. And that wife is a Tzaras, such that when Shimon dies, not only is Levi precluded from Yibum with the wife that was married to his brother Reuven, but also the wife of that wife of Reuven that married Shimon. So that's what the Tosaf Rosh has to say. Now the next piece here in the Alkut Biurim, hopefully we'll get to a little bit later. We didn't get to the Gemara yet, unfortunately. So let's turn back to the Gemara itself. Now, the Seder Advarim that I'd like to suggest is the following. We'll introduce the Gemara, then we'll read the Gemara, and then we'll go through some of these diagrams. I would prefer, if possible, that we're all looking at the same diagram. And Steve was very kind here to photocopy the diagrams from the Masifta and expand them because they're very small, very hard to read. Okay. So as far as the introduction is concerned, and let me just show you where we are in the Gemara, so you'll put your finger on the place. It's 4 lines down from the top of Tes Amud Beis. Va'amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. And this sugya of Rabbi Yehuda Marav is focused on a Gemara on Daf Chavav. And the Gemara there is talking about Arba Achim, 4 brothers, 2 of which married 2 sisters. And those 2 brothers that married 2 sisters died without children. And now those 2 sisters are falling for Yibum to the other 2 brothers. So this he calls Tziur Nun Aleph. Let's see if we can find Nun Aleph. Okay, we don't have Nun Aleph here on this page. But again, this is pretty simple. I don't think we need to get all uptight about it. And we have here, he's got the father. Okay, we'll call him Yaakov, just to give it a name. And Yaakov has 4 sons.
Where is this in the Masifta?
This is on the bottom of Aleph. So you have Tes Amud Beis Aleph. And it's the bottom left, which is called Nun Aleph, in terms of every diagram gets a number. You'll see that he calls it Av, we called it Yaakov, we just gave it a name. And he's got 4 sons. Okay? Now, Reuven and Shimon are married to 2 sisters. Reuven married Rachel, and Shimon married Leah. Now, we don't know who the parents of Rachel and Leah are. That's irrelevant. You know, he just has a circle here with the word Orim, parents. But the main thing is that Rachel and Leah are sisters. That's always the case, right? Rachel and Leah are sisters. So now what happens? Reuven's wife, Rachel, when Reuven died, as well as Shimon's wife, Leah, when Shimon died, fall for Levi and Yehuda for Yibum. And now what Levi and Yehuda are looking at are two Yevamos, Rachel and Leah, that are sisters. And this is called Achos Zikukasa. On a Darabanan level, we consider it as if Reuven, leave out Reuven because Reuven died already, as if Levi, if he would be miyabem one of these two wives, either Eshes Reuven, that's Rachel, or Eshes Shimon, that's Leah, one of these two wives, then he's marrying the wife of his sister. What do you mean he's marrying the wife? He's marrying Rachel, he's not marrying Leah. But since Leah is the Kukaso, we upgrade her, we consider her as if she is a sister. Everybody with me? Okay. So that's as far as that's concerned. However, and here we get to Nun Beis, which you'll see on the bottom of page, what's called Tesam and Beis. Here we're talking about a case where one of these two sisters is an erva to either Levi or Yehuda. So if you take a look at the diagram, we have here Yaakov, who has 4 sons, and Reuven is married to Rachel, Shimon is married to Leah. But you'll see that in the circle called Rachel, he adds a few words, which are very, very small, but Steve was thanking Steve again, he expanded it. That's why we have this modern technology, very sophisticated photocopies. I'm very spoiled because I taught in Lander College for 2 years, Arturo, and they had such a sophisticated system. It was a locked room. You had to get the code, but if you were on the staff, you got the code. I mean, it was magical. Like the machine could do anything that you ever imagined in your life. You know, with the papers and the collating it and stapling it and upside down, inside out, expanding it. It was like amazing. So I'm very spoiled because I taught there for 2 years. It was just, in any event, so what we have here in the circle called Rachel, he writes, the Chameshesrei Krovos Shel Levi. So we have 15 arayos listed in our Mishnah. Pick and choose any of the 15. And Rachel is an erva to Levi. So now, when Rachel and Leah fall to Yibum, Rachel as Eshes Reuven and Leah as Eshes Shimon, and they fall to Levi, then then Leah cannot be defined as Achos Ishto, meaning Achos Zikukasa, because Rachel, insofar as she's one of the 15 arayos, is not Zkuka Liyibum vis-a-vis Levi. So that if, let's say, Rachel is a close relative of Levi, she doesn't fall for Yibum to Levi. There's no zik at all. And therefore, Levi will be the Abem Leah. Shimon doesn't have that luxury, that license, because for Shimon, Rachel and Leah are 2 sisters. Again, proverbially, not really the sisters. I mean, they're not a sister to his wife. That's what I meant to say. But since there's kukos, it's like achos sekukos. Now we go on to Nun Gimel, which is again a very slight variation of Nun Beis. The only difference is that in Nun Gimel, you'll see the same circle that you have about Rachel, you have about Leah. And that is that just like Rachel in the first case was an erva to Levi, Leah is an erva to Yehuda. And what that means is that Levi and Yehuda both have the obligation of Yibum. In the case of Levi, he'll have to be Miyabim Leah, as we discussed earlier, because there's no Zika to Rachel, and therefore Leah is not Achos Kukas. And in the case of Yehuda, he'll have to be Miyabim Rachel, because Rachel is not related to him, but Leah is related to him. She's one of the Arayos, and therefore Leah doesn't fall for Yibum, and therefore Rachel is not achos kukos. So that's as far as Nun Gimel is concerned. Now we can read the Gemara. The Gemara says, Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Omar Rav, V'chein Toni Rabbi Chia, B'kulon, referring to all the 15 arayas listed in Ani Kori Bahen, I can apply this principle of Asura Lizeh, Muteres Lizeh, Asura Lizeh, Muteres Lizeh. In other words, this scenario, which we call Nun Gimel in the diagram, could apply to any of the 15 arayas. Meaning that when we said that Rachel is an erva to Levi or Leah is an erva to Shimon, it matters not which of the 15 arayos you choose. The achosa shehi yevimta choletzes o misyabemes, which means that since Rachel does not fall for Yibum to Levi because she's an erva, therefore Leah will fall for Yibum to Levi, and Levi now has two options, either Chalitza or Yibum. There's no Achos Skukasa. And the same is true for Yehud. All this is before the comment of Rabbi Yehuda, meaning Rabbi Yehuda so far at stage 1 was simply transmitting the Torah of Rav, or alternatively the Brisa of Rabbi Chia. But now Rabbi Yehuda in stage number 2 adds a comment, or shall we say a limitation to the statement of Rav and Rabbi Chia. And that's called mitargim. Right? Mitargim means when the halacha is originally stated in a more generic sense, then we need a mitargim. The mitargim has the responsibility, because he heard from the chacham who presented the ruling more of the details, and he now stands up with a foghorn and he projects the important interpretation of the original general statement. In this case, to restrict and limit the general statement. And he says the following. So if we take a look back at our Mishnah, the beginning of the Perek, beginning of the Masechta, we'll see, and let's check me out if I'm right, that Chamoso is number 7 on the list. Let's just see. It says V'elu. Bito, who could help me count? Okay, Bito, Bas Bito, Bas Bino, Bas Ishto, Bas Bino, Bas Bito. How many is that? 6. And then we have Chamoso. So Chamoso is number 7 on the list. That's the vision. And now we go back to Rabbi Yehuda's Mitargem, and he says, Michamoso v'elu, from 7 to 15, Aval Shita, but the first 6, Bave, the Reisha, meaning cases of the Reish, which is again Bito, Bas Bito, Bas Pino, Bas Ishto, Bas Bito, Ubas Pino, Lo. These 6 cases are not included in the statement of Shtei Achios of Asura Lezeh, Muteres Lezeh, Asura Lezeh, Muteres Lezeh. And the Gemara is going to ask my time. So before we get to my time, let's just summarize. We have a statement which we don't understand, but we can translate this statement. And that is that in all the 6 cases that are listed at the beginning of our Mishnah, which are all arayos of Bito, and it goes from Bito, so you'll have Bito and Bas Bito, you'll have Bino and Bas Bino, and so forth. All these cases that come through the Bas are excluded from the possibility of the erva of Rachel or Leah. You remember we had Rachel was an erva to Ruvain, or shall we say Leah was an erva to Yehuda. No. That can't apply in the case of Bita, as we'll soon see why. My timer. Kevan did Bito be'onsim mishkachas. B'nesuin lo mishkachas. So at this point, the Gemara, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the Tirgum of Rabbi Yehuda, is differentiating between a marriage relationship from which a bas was born, that's called Nesuin, as opposed to a rape situation, which is called onsin. And what we're going to try to prove now through these various scenarios of Bito, etc., is that you cannot have the shtei achios of Rachel and Leah, asura lezeh, muteres lezeh, etc., in the case of Nesuin, of a bas through Nesuin. That's not going to happen. It can't happen. It can only happen in a case of a bas through ons. That's what we have to figure that out. And our Mishnah, from beginning to end, is only talking about Nesuin and not ons. And since again, you cannot have Uteres Lezeh, Asul Lezeh, Shtei Achos in the case of Nesuin, in the case of Bito and the like, if she was a bas through Nesuin, therefore we have to assume that when we spoke about Shtei Achios, Asur Lezeh, Uteres Lezeh, etc., then we're talking about bas through ones, and our mission is not talking about ones, which we'll have to figure out why. Okay. So now we want to first discuss the case of Chamosa, because again, from Chamosa v'elech, everything works out. Meaning, Rachel could be Chamosa of Levi, and Leah could be Chamosa of Yehuda. So that's diagram number Nun Tes. Okay then? I'm going to use the expanded version. It's a little bit easier for me. I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way, so I might change my mind. But right now, we'll try Nun Tes, and then we'll work our way backwards to the case of the 6 that cannot work out through Nisuin and only can work out through Onus. But for a minute, let's leave all those cases out, and we're going to fast forward to Nun Tes. Oh, on the flip side of the page, right? What do we have here? He says that Nachshon married Sarah. We'll get familiar with why he uses the name Nachshon. And from that marriage, you'll see that a girl was born named Rachel. So Nachshon is married to Sarah, and the daughter of that marriage is Rachel. Now, in addition, Nachshon married another woman, which you'll see on the top left of the diagram, named Rivka, which means that Rivka and Rachel are Saras. Right? They share the same husband, Nachshon. Now, from this second wife that Nachshon married Rivka, Yolda lo es Leah, and Leah was born from the marriage between Nachshon and Rivka, whereas Rachel was born from the marriage between Nachshon and Sarah. Nimtza, Rachel v'Leah achios mina'ah. Rachel and Leah share the same father. Now, Mace Nachshon dies. V'nisu noshav ubnosav liarba achim. So we have now two wives of Nachshon, and we have two daughters of Nachshon. These two daughters of Nachshon were born from two different wives. And all these four women, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, fall for Yibum. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. We're not yet ready for Yibum.
He dies, and then they get married.
Correct. So let's see. He says that Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda, four brothers. Reuven marries the wife of Nachshon by the name of Sarah. Shimon marries the wife of Nachshon by the name of Rivka. Levi marries Nachshon's daughter by the name of Rachel, and Yehuda marries Nachshon's daughter by the name of Leah. We're going to have to go over this, but that's the basic structure. Now, Mesu, that's the X, right? Mesu, Levi, Yehuda, obviously believe Banu. Okay, and Levi, we said, was married to Rachel. Did I get that right? Levi was married to Rachel? Yeah. Levi
That he can
is,
marry.
wait, just give me 1 minute and then the floor is yours. Otherwise I'm going to get so confused that you'll have to pick up the pieces from the floor. It'll be like Humpty Dumpty fell on the floor. But as soon as I get myself oriented, then the floor is yours. So again, Levi marries the daughter of Rachel. Okay then? Now.
Marries the daughter of Sarah.
I'm sorry, he married Rachel, right? That's what we said. He married Rachel. Levi married Rachel. And we said that Yehuda married Leah. And now Levi and Yehuda die. Right?
Reuven and Shimon died.
Well, again, are you looking at the same diagram? If you're not, we're going to be in trouble here. But you see the X's, like Levi. You don't have this one?
The more I put it in, disappear.
Oh, wow. What do we do?
Okay.
All right, see if you could follow
Yeah.
Balpet. If not, we'll have to take a break and photograph. Okay. So now, Levi and Yehuda pass away without children. Now, we said that Levi was married to Rachel. So Rachel is going to, and right now, when Levi and Yehuda die, their wives will fall for Yibum for Reuven and Shimon, who are still alive and well. So Levi's married to Rachel, and Rachel now will fall for Yibum to Reuven and Shimon. And Yehuda dies, so Leah, his wife, fall for Yibum to Reuven and Shimon. So we have both Rachel and Leah, the respective wives of Levi and Yehuda, falling for Yibum to Reuven and Shimon. Now, here's where the problem arises. Rachel, we said, was the daughter of Sarah. So there was a marriage relation between Nachshon and Sarah. And Rachel was married, and Rachel was born from that marriage. What is the relationship between Rachel and Reuven if Reuven married Sarah? Right? Rachel is the daughter.
He's the stepfather.
No. I don't think so. I think what happens here is that Rachel, let me read it again inside. Rachel bas Sarah Eshes Reuven,
But he's the
Asura Reuven. Again, why is Rachel Asura to Reuven? Just 1 second. Yeah.
He's already married to
Teres l'Shimon. Okay, so Rachel bas Sarah is because that's the daughter of his wife, correct? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Rachel is the daughter of Reuven's wife. So if Rachel now is married to Levi, and Levi dies, and Rachel falls to Yibam to Reuven, Reuven is not allowed to marry the daughter of his wife. Right? It's almost like his own daughter. And the same is going to be true with regard to Leah, who's married to Yehuda. Yehuda dies. Leah was the daughter of Rivka, and Shimon was married to Rivka. So just 1 second. This is this what we call Hamotz? It means, why is it Hamotz? That's my mistake. So this is Bas Ishto. I'm pretty sure this is Bas Ishto. Okay.
He can't get married to her while he's still married. Once his wife passes away, marry daughter.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't think so, but maybe. Okay, so 1 second. Now here's the question. Can Reuven be miyabim Leah? He cannot be miyabim Rachel because Rachel is the daughter of his wife. But Yehuda died, which is Reuven's brother, leaving Leah. Leah is in no way related to Reuven, so Reuven should be able to be miyabim Leah, unless, right? And there's no tzara relationship here because we're talking about two brothers marrying two different women, so that should be fine.
Well,
Did I miss something?
Because there's no Zika between Reuven and Rachel.
Oh, wait a minute. Rachel and Leah have a common father.
Right.
Oh, okay. So I messed up over this. So we're talking about Achios.
Right.
But since Rachel is an erva to Reuven, Leah is an erva to Shimon, therefore Yibum is possible, meaning Reuven will be miyabim Leah and Shimon will be miyabim Rachel because of what's mafkia chos kukoso is the fact that she was an erva of Bas Ish. Okay, let's put this on the side and let's go back to where we were holding here on the other side. Okay. So we did Nun Beis and Nun Gimel. Did we do Nun Daled yet? No, I don't think we did Nun Daled. Let's go through Nun Daled. Again, I apologize for both sides. This is simple for you, but for me, if I don't do this, I'm dead meat. That's the challenge for me of learning Yevamot. It's not like learning other Masechets, you know. I mean, I'm doing Daf Yomi and Sukkah. We have no such problem, no diagrams. I have a couple of colored pictures of what Chazazis looks like. If you want to see an ugly S. All right. So now we're doing Nun Daled. Now, what happens here in Nun Daled? Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Achim. Again, we have 4 brothers because they're all born to, I call them Yaakov, he calls it Av. the same father. Okay. Now, the Reuven Bas, and her name is Sarah. With Shimon Bas, and her name is Rivka. Nasa Yitzchak, Adam in Ashur. He marries Sarah, the daughter of Reuven. And now, so we have Yitzchak marrying Sarah, the daughter of Reuven. Now, from that marriage between Sarah bas Reuven and Yitzchak, Rachel is. Now Yitzchak marries the daughter of Shimon. So now Reuven is married not only to Sarah, can I get this right? Reuven married Sarah. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I messed up. Reuven, just 1 second. So again, Yitzchak marries Sarah. They have a daughter named Rachel. Okay. Now Yitzchak marries another wife named Rivka, who's the daughter of Shimon. And they have a child, Leah. So Yitzchak is married to Sarah, and they give birth through Sarah to Rachel. Yitzchak is married to Rivka, and they have a child named Leah. Nimtza. So Rachel, the Leah, Achios Mina'av. So Rachel and Leah are sisters. They share the same father, Yitzchak. Now let's just look for a moment at the status of Rachel vis-a-vis Reuven. Let's take a look at that. Reuven has a daughter named Sarah. And Sarah has a daughter through the marriage to Yitzchak named Rachel. So Rachel is the daughter of Reuven. She's the granddaughter of Reuven. Nimtza Rachel bas Bito shel Reuven, Leah bas Bito shel Shimon. Why? Because Shimon had married Rivka. No, that doesn't make sense. Shimon's daughter is Rivka. Rivka was married to Yitzchak, and they had a daughter named Leah. So Leah is the daughter of Rivka, who is the daughter of Shimon. We have that? So in this case, we have Bas Bita to both Reuven and Shimon. Reuven and Shimon, with the death of Yitzchak. All right, now 1 second. Nasa, it's more complicated than this. Nasa Levi es Rachel. I see. Asbito shel Reuven. Yehuda Nasa es Leah Asbito shel Shimon. Umesu Levi Yehuda. Benaflu Rachel for Leah, who are two sisters sharing the same husband. Liyibum lefnei Reuven v'Shimon. Rachel is Baspito shel Reuven, and that makes her an erva, but she's okay to Shimon. And therefore, as far as Shimon is concerned, he could be Miyabin Rachel because she's not a Choskin Kos. No. As far as again, Levi Yehuda died, and their wives are falling for Yibum to Reuben and Shimon. And Rachel is one of these wives of Levi, but Rachel, is a granddaughter to Reuven. But that doesn't preclude Reuven from being Miyabim Leah, and vice versa. Now, why do we need Anusaso? That's what I have to figure out. I'm reading now the Masechet, Rabbi Kapustin, on page Gimel. You see where it says, on the right side, it says, Bibito mina onsim mishkachas. Right? He says, Titochim etziyazu, kigon. Okay, wait a second. Maybe we don't have to read this yet. What's the problem with these arayos? You do chapters, guys? I don't chapters. I mean, we just went through this diagram, which is numbered as number nun dalet, and it worked out beautifully. So what was the problem? Why does he say you know what? I'm going to turn to the next page for a moment. That's number Dalet. Right? You have that? Test. Amid Bay's number Dalet. Lo yitachin din shtei achios. Shetei kol achas men muteres liyechet basura l'sheni. Oh, so he's going to try to explain this now. Kevon. Kishenasa Ruvain es Sarah. I'm afraid that this is already a different. Also, Ruvain es Sarah. This is going to be a different case, but let's see if in any event we can get the. I just want to get this one principle here that we have to get. Once we get that, I think everything will fit into place. Haman shenasa rumen es Sarah v'yodalo es Rachel. Tells you his number. Ayin Aleph. We have Ayin. We don't even have Ayin Aleph here. Okay, is Hare af in Girsha Harehi Asura Olav Mishum Grushas. Okay. This number I think we're going to have to photocopy number I, but we just don't have the time for that. Well, let's go back to the Onsim Mishkan. Again, I'm going to try to focus on the case that we just had. Now, what is the issue? The Yehuda died. Levi was married to Rachel, correct? Yehuda was married to Leah. Is that correct? And now Rachel and Leah fall to Reuven and Shimon. But the only problem is that Rachel is a granddaughter of Reuven, Leah is a granddaughter of Shimon. So what's the issue here? What is bothering the Gemara? Levi. Married to Rachel. So Reuven is married. Levi's married to Rachel, who's the granddaughter of Reuven. What's the issue?
Isn't the issue,
Just 1 second. Rachel and Leah are sisters, right?
No,
no,
No?
1 second. There's,
well, yeah,
Yeah, the sisters from
Yeah,
the
sisters.
father.
from the father,
Oh, so let's just think, is Yehuda, again, I could give you 2 different scenarios, but let's just choose one. Is Yehuda allowed to marry Leah? Let's just see. Leah, so Reuben can marry Leah, and Levi can marry Rachel. Yeah, what do you say, Rabbi Kaputz? Well, there's some fluke here that's bothering the Gemara.
what's the relation between Reuven and Leah and Shimon and Rachel?
Right.
Is that not the question?
And I don't think that there is any such relation. No.
it's great nieces.
Okay, great nieces. I don't think that that's relevant to us. I thought I had it, but this is where I got stuck. Let me just go over this one more time. We have 4 brothers. Reuven marries. Reuven, we said that Reuven marries, we don't know who, but anyway, Reuven has a daughter named Sarah. Yitzchak. Yeah, Yitzchak can marry both Sarah and Rivka. That's not a problem. And saying that what? That Levi marries Rachel, granddaughter of Reuven. Shimon marries Leah, the granddaughter of. Sorry, and Yehuda marries Leah, who's the granddaughter of Shimon. See any problem? Wait a second. 2 brothers. One wants to marry the granddaughter of the other brother. Am I right? Is that what happened here?
Right.
So maybe that's the issue here. Can you marry? And well, you can marry your brother's daughter. You can certainly marry your brother's granddaughter.
Isn't that just?
This apparently
Okay,
is
so
not.
that sort of was, your.
Should be. Why do we need a nuisance? I'm trying to figure out. The Gemara says,
Oh.
"V'nisua lo mishkachas." But I'm afraid that for that we have to do some other diagrams which we don't have in front of us. So let's take a break now. And the question is, it's working. Okay, then. So it's already getting late. It's not late, but I got to the end zone, if you know what I mean, for myself. Again, it's probably just a simple answer to this question, but I'm trying to figure out why the Gemara insists that B'nesuin kamayri ve'onsim lo kamayri, and we cannot understand this tirgum of Rabbi Yehuda unless we introduce ons. So that's where I got stuck. Okay then. So Bli Neder will finish this up. Okay then.